WWE is fixing their big Bayley mistake, and in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what that mistake was, how they're fixing it, and why it's a good thing. Because Bayley, well, she had her breakout year of 2024, and I know that's something to say considering the career, all the success, all the championships in which she's held in WWE over the last decade. But it truly was, from winning the Women's Royal Rumble match, first time she's ever done so, feuding with her own faction. I mean, come on now. That's pretty impressive with Damage Control, beating Io Sky for the Women's Championship and then going on a multiple month title defense and reign as Women's Champion, ultimately giving up the title, putting over Nia Jax at SummerSlam. Now, they kept this feud going over the last several weeks, right? Especially at Bad Blood, Tiffany Stratton helping Nia Jax retain the title for a second straight time, and WWE, and rightfully so, is moving on from the Bayley Nia Jax feud, and I'm good with that because Bayley and Nia Jax, they did the thing and they did a pretty good job at telling the story in which they were trying to tell, but now times have changed. Now WWE, they've been catching a little bit of flack with Bayley and the way that they've booked this star in recent weeks. Sure, there's a little bit of criticism that she had to put over Nia Jax, but WWE, and rightfully so in hindsight, made the right call by having Bayley lose the title to Nia Jax. It helped Nia Jax get over as women's champion after winning the Queen of the Ring tournament. It was a right call. I agree with that. Having her put her over in a rematch, got no problem with that. But a recent decision that they did, well, it got fans absolutely outraged, and I think it's fair to say that WWE has corrected it, because whether you have been a fan of Triple H's booking since taking over main roster creative in 2022 from Vince McMahon or not, I would say that things have gotten a lot better under Triple H than it was under Vince McMahon, including Bayley. Now, sure, Bayley is mostly been booked as a top star since about 2019 after she turned heel, but for the most part, I would say that she's actually been booked better under Triple H, whether that would be her lovable babyface run in NXT or her Damage Control return from injury under Triple H, having an ultimate run as a heel with a heel dominant faction and then a babyface run yet again. So there was a situation a few weeks ago where Bayley put over Candice LeRae in a tag team match on an episode of Friday Night SmackDown. She had her pin her. Now, keep in mind that Candice LeRae, she's never been booked as a top star, not even booked as a top upper carder. She's someone that can go in there, gets a decent crowd reaction, working, and put over anyone that you really need and give them a shining moment. She's never going to be a top star, right? It's just not going to happen. So having her, who had not won a TV match in months, who rarely is used on television, going over someone like Bayley, well, it caused outrage. However, WWE is changing their ways with Bayley. So they had her drop the Women's Championship to Nia Jax. They had her put over Candice LeRae, eye roll, but now they're starting to get back on track with Bayley, because not only did she revenge her loss with Candice LeRae on an episode of SmackDown, but now she appears to be a key player in the WWE Women's United States Championship tournament that recently kicked off. Now, the inaugural champion and the tournament finals are slated to be held at Saturday Night's main event on December 14th. This is a big deal. This is the first time that WWE has been in prime time on NBC since August of 2008. It's a big money deal for WWE, and they're loading up the card, and that's why this tournament being on this show is so significant. So Bayley, she's already won her first round match. She went over LeRae, she went over BFAB. That's good. And you still have the likes of Bianca Belair, Chelsea Green, Blair Davenport, Jade Cargill, Nishin, Piper Niven, Naomi, Tiffany Stratton, and Elektra Lopez left in this tournament as the recording of this video. I'm sure tournament matches have already played out a little bit so far, but for the most part, Bayley is the clear-cut favorite for the tournament win. And I think it's absolutely brilliant. I'll tell you why. Because you have Bayley, who she was such a key part of being part of the modern day era of women's wrestling. She was part of the revolution, evolution, and now the modern day, what we know women's wrestling as, why it's so important that they continue to make progress with this women's division. She was part of that with the Four Horsewomen of WWE. She was a NXT Women's Champion. She was a Women's Champion, and more importantly, she was a huge advocate for introducing the Women's Tag Team Championships, her and Mercedes Moné, aka Sasha Banks. So having her be a key figure in the progression of women's wrestling, changing the game in a lot of respects, having her become the inaugural women's tag team champion and being such a huge advocate for not only women's wrestling, headlining pay-per-views, headlining shows, having more storylines, having more matches, being the inaugural women's tag team champions, having her be the inaugural women's United States championship or champion, excuse me, the very first secondary women's champion on the main roster, not counting NXT, obviously, with the NXT North American title. That's such a huge thing. Bayley, who has lost the women's championship, who has put over Candice LeRae, who has had a little bit of down on her luck, is starting to turn things around. What is a better person? What is a better star than Bayley to hold this championship for the very first time? Maybe Jade Cargill, something which I've recently pushed for, but I think Bayley is the just absolute clear-cut favorite in this. Most people agree that she is going to be the favorite, that she's going to be the inaugural champion, that she should be the inaugural champion. It's such importance to start off the legacy and the history of a championship with a notable star. You don't want to just have, some jobber, hold the championship. You want a top star to hold this championship. You want to make it very clear to the fan base, hey, we created this championship not just to have another prop on television. No, we created this championship because we believe in women's wrestling. We believe that after year and progression after progression, that the women not only deserve a secondary championship, but they are well overdue a championship. We believe that they can carry a secondary women's title. We believe that they can carry a secondary feud. We believe in women's wrestling. We believe that they can be as great as the men and they can be positioned as good as the men, and not in a hokey way, in a legitimate and sincere way. Having someone like Bayley set the foundation, set the watermark, set the tone for what fans can expect from this championship, the booking going forward of this championship and the booking of women's wrestling going forward is highly needed. It is highly coveted. And I think Bayley would be the absolute perfect person to do so for everything that I just listed. But like I said, there are some big hitters in this tournament, which I absolutely love, right? They didn't just put Bayley and one other name with a bunch of just, jobbers or lower mid-card type talent. No, you got your Naomi's and your Tiffany Stratton and your Bianca Belairs and your Jade Cargills. I mean, there are some heavy hitters in this tournament, and you don't know exactly how it's going to go. You think you got an idea. You think you know where it's going, but you really can't be 1,000% sure. You can't be 1,000% confident. That is something in which I'm looking forward to seeing going forward.